Tomorrow we are leaving for yet another country, the last destination of our trip. This country is the only country in the entire world that has the word love in its name, and its capital also means beloved. So I'm sure it's going to be a lovely country. The distance from Plitvice National Park to the Vintgar Gorge, the area where we are going in Slovenia, is around 315 kilometers if we use the motor highway, which is where we also have to pay the tolls. But there's an alternative route as well where you don't need to pay the tolls, but the time increased by an hour, even though the distance was shorter, because obviously you can't drive on those roads, the countryside roads, at more than 100 kilometers per hour. So it will take us around 3.5 hours to go from Plitvice to Slovenia. We are now entering the border control point for Slovenia. We have been on the motor road for almost 2 hours now, I think. No? Less than 2 hours. But the the highways here are obviously amazing, and we still have, I think, around 200 kilometers left. And the estimated time for covering the 200 kilometers on Google Maps is showing as 2 hours. So it's less than 2 hours. So it's estimating that we are going to drive at a minimum of 100 kilometers per hour. And there's a queue for entering the border control point where they'll check our passports and our rental car papers. And just like that, in a matter of a few minutes, we entered a new country, the country of Slovenia. We first crossed the Croatia border control point, and immediately after that was the Slovenia border control point where they just checked our passports and stamped it. So now we are driving in the 6th country of this trip, Slovenia. We have finally arrived in the last country of our Euro trip, and it's the only country in the entire world that has the word love in its name, and its capital also means beloved. We are in the lovely country of Slovenia. We drove down from Plitvice National Parks in Croatia to Slovenia today, and it took us close to 3 hours to reach here. And when we entered Slovenia, we realized that the landscape of Slovenia was very, very similar to what we saw in Austria, especially the countryside. As we were driving through the roads, the countryside villages on both sides of the road reminded us of our time in Austria. And in case if you haven't seen our Austria vlogs, please go check it out as well. Our first destination in Slovenia for today is the Vintgar Gorge in the Triglav National Park. And you can see the Radovna river behind me, which also runs inside the park. So we are going to go inside the park, but before that we'll have lunch because we haven't eaten anything since morning. So we'll have lunch and then buy tickets for the park and then enter it. So let's go. Parked our car near the entrance to the park, and it costed us €5 for the entire day. And obviously they take only cash, and the restaurant also where we just ate, they take only cash. So make sure you're carrying some euros with you. have just entered the Vintgar Gorge park here in Triglav National Park, and the entrance fee was €10 per person. And we are walking on these wooden boardwalks right next to the Radovna river. And because it's almost time for the fall season, the leaves and the trees along with the river, they are looking absolutely spectacular.
About to leave, already packing. Come with me, I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be, life with no distractions. We'll get away, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out, down with my own doubts. Be free with me. Be free. Be free with me. Be free. Not looking back, eyes on the freeway, Bonnie and Clyde, a classic cliche. We're on the run, this is what we waited for. Oh yeah. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out, down with my own doubts. Be free with me. Be free. Be free with me. Be free.
So we have reached the first stop point inside this gorge. I'll show you, there's a bridge on top, and sometimes you'll also find trains crossing through that bridge, so you can imagine how scenic the view would be from such trains. And now we have reached the waterfalls. It's called the Sum Waterfalls, or SUM, the Sum Waterfalls, and it actually means noisy. So Sum waterfall is the end of the gorge, and earlier you could just backtrack your way from the waterfall and go back the same way. But then I think since the last 2 years they have opened 2 new paths using which you can go back to the main entrance. We are following the path through the St. Catherine Church, which is supposed to be very scenic and a little longer than the other path. So this path, as you can see, takes us through a beautiful forest where the trees are full of beautifully colored fall leaves, and a lot of leaves have fallen down. We actually can't see the ground, it's fully covered with fallen leaves. And we have just started walking through this forest. It'll take us around half an hour to reach the main entrance, so let's go. We have now arrived at the St. Catherine Church or the St. Katrina Church, and there's a small playground over here for kids to play, and also a small cafe from where you can buy something to eat. And also there's the view from here of Slovenia is very beautiful. It's very scenic. Complete countryside of Slovenia is visible from here. We are now walking back towards the main entrance, and this route is taking us through the countryside views, and we also crossed the pastures where the sheep were grazing. Sheep the goat the. And behind me you can see the countryside of Slovenia, and also we can see the Mount Triglav, which is the highest peak in Slovenia, as told to us by some local people we just met here. And it's a good thing that we didn't have to go back to the entrance through the same path, because now this way we could explore and see Slovenia from up top, and it obviously looks very scenic. Still walking through these narrow pathways with the countryside of Slovenia on one side. So if you're planning a trip to Slovenia, make sure you have the Vintgar Gorge in your itinerary. It's not going to take you a lot of time, less than half a day, and you can explore it quite comfortably. But definitely make sure that you visit this place. We have now almost reached the parking lot where we had parked our car, which is at P1 at the entrance to the park. And it was a long walk to come back here, but totally worth it because it was so scenic. And the sun is about to set now, and now we have to go towards our hotel, which is very near to Lake Bled, which is also the place that we are going to visit tomorrow, and that we are going to show it to you in the next vlog. So till then, happy traveling from Slovenia.